Hey guys, Jeremy here with RC Collaborative again. I went ahead and made a video showing all the upgrades I highly recommend you do on the Arrma Kraton to try to get rid of some of the weak areas and prevent problems down the road. I've been racing the truck and bashing it a lot, and 6S is very brutal and taxing on the vehicle. So I've got some things that you may want to consider upgrading on the vehicle, some before you even take it out, and some you can maybe consider doing later, but otherwise come take a look and see what we got going on. Thank you.
Yo, I ain't here for the money, I ain't here for the fame. Though it might be nice to own a jet plane, I'ma do it all for you. Come along and see it's true, but the world is pretty cold, you might need a sweater too.
Alright guys, so we're out in the garage here and I have a bunch of things laid out, and I've done a lot of mods to the Kraton to make it stronger, to go bashing, to go racing with, and this is going to be a summary of basically the must-haves in my opinion, the things that you probably should buy if you're going to get a Kraton or an Outcast or a Talion or any of the 6S BLX systems. These are the things that you're going to want to do. So let's start off with the Turnbuckle Rod Ends. The steering links here, I replaced them with a RPM. They're for Traxxas, but they work good. And then the factory Arrma comes with plastic balls. So I get this Traxxas ball ends to take the metal balls and I put them in here in the steering. And then the RPM sells the Traxxas short ends. These fit the shocks, the bottom of the shocks. Alright, so those are things you definitely want to pick up if you're going to get an Arrma. The RPM front bumper, absolute must have. Buy this, install it before you ever touch the car. There are some radio and endpoint and misadjustment issues on this car. Where I got it, my car took off on its own and actually wrecked and destroyed itself when I first got it, and I had no idea what was going on. It did it on its own. And then also the front bumper here, remove the factory Kraton bumper, because what will happen is this bumper bends up, and it actually bent up the factory bumper and broke the screws off in the bulkheads and stuff. So I had fun fishing the screws out of there. So you don't want the factory bumper, you just want the RPM bumper. It will fold up and flex and do its job, but if you have the Arrma bumper, it fills in the space here and it'll bend up and break the screws off. You don't want to do that. So if you do get the RPM bumper, make sure you take care of that. Now, the front axle carriers, the pillow balls, these plastic ones are a total pain in the butt, because these aluminum nuts don't like to thread in square, and on top of that, they like to back out. So I really think the hot racing axle carriers are kind of a must-have for two reasons. One, they have an O-ring on the nut here that keeps it in place. Wherever you set it, it does not back out. You do not need thread lock or anything like that. I've never had them back out. The second reason is it has a much bigger bearing right here, which is better for your axle. I do recommend getting a set of Avid Racing bearings. The bearing size for this is 15 by 24 by 5 millimeters. I like to use the rubber bearings. Now, if you don't want to get the axle carriers, they're 50 bucks for these aluminum sets. What I did before I got those was I used thread lock on these red adjustment nuts. Now, a quick tip here. I don't have the hex driver for me right here to make an example, but the hex driver has 5 points on it, I believe. Let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points. So you see, you take one point, you tighten it down until it gets snug. I mean, you don't want to tighten it just till you feel it hit bottom. And then you want to back it off 3 points. So you want to turn it back 1, 2, 3. And that's kind of the magic number fail safe to not set these too tight. And you can, I don't know if you can see, but I can see my Loctite in there. So I just put the Kraton back together and I put Loctite on that. So these aren't going to back off. But adjusting them is a pain in the butt. If you have to change any A-arms or do any work to it, then you have to take those out. And the plastic, it just doesn't play nice with those aluminum nuts. With the metal one from Hot Racing, I didn't have any issues. Anytime I had a pillow ball come loose when I was at the track, I just take this off real quick, screw the pillow ball back in, and I could put this back on and adjust it, and I didn't have to use thread lock. So when I'm at the track, I can do that 2 or 3 times a day. If you're having to thread lock it and deal with this plastic and go through that often, you're gonna wear these out and it's gonna be a pain in the butt. So I consider the Hot Racing front carriers a must-have for that reason. If you can't get them, use the thread lock, but be warned, they're gonna frustrate you. Okay, next. Absolute must-have, bearings, okay? The bearings that come in this are absolute garbage. I had read that online, I had these on order. I did run the truck like once on the factory bearings. Not actually, I already had these. I didn't replace all of them. I didn't tear down the entire truck. I did it bit by bit, and as I went through, I replaced the bearings. And when I got to the differential hubs, the little bearing that goes on this input gear here was it grenaded. It was falling apart. I didn't even know it was broken. It's very small and it's of poor quality. So you definitely, before you even run it, don't even bother frustrating yourself with the stock bearings. Just replace them. And it also includes upgraded bearings for the steering linkage here, because the stock Kraton comes with brass bushings instead of bearings. So this kit's like 20 bucks, okay? It's totally worth it. Definite must-have. Now, they did upgrade the stock servo mount, which is a bit stronger. I'm not really gonna call this a must-have, but they're so cheap. They're like 20 bucks. I don't see a reason not to get one. You know, but that's me. I like to upgrade things. I like them to be stronger. I don't like having issues, so I try to bulletproof things. I had a lot of issues with the stock motor getting hot, especially because the pinion gears, I wanted to run a bit bigger pinion gear. So I use the Racing fan. Now, the stock fans that come with it are garbage, the plastic ones. They broke the very first time I took it out. So I bought these aluminum upgraded fans from A-Main and replaced the plastic ones with the aluminum ones. Not like I had a choice. The stock ones were blown out and totally destroyed. These things are like 15 bucks, 10 bucks. These aluminum diff mounts that go in the center diff. This is a definite must-have. The screws that hold the plastic one in, they strip, they don't really hold it. And you don't want play in the differential in that kind of way. So I would get one of these for sure. All right, and this for me is kind of a must-have because I like to change my pinion gears a lot. This is the Hot Racing engine mount. It has a 1 screw here. Once you loosen that, the motor slides and it's easy to set the mesh. Without this, the only proper way to set the mesh is to take this roll cage off, take the mount off that's on top of it, take these 3 screws, these 2 screws out. That drops the entire motor and center diff. And then what you do is you hold the motor in your hand like so. You're holding the motor and you set your set the differential in the mount. You've got your motor mounted loose and you set your pinion mesh right here and you tighten it down. And once you're happy with the mesh, then you just reinstall the entire unit in the truck. Don't try to set your mesh with the motor installed. You're gonna, I swear to you, you will spend more time frustrating with that and not getting anywhere and probably set it wrong and damage something when you should just you need to get used to taking everything apart. You need to get used to maintaining it. Don't be afraid to take stuff apart. So get used to pulling your motor off and pulling all that stuff off, so that way you can make these changes and be confident with them and do a good job at it. If you're afraid of it and you try to skimp out, that's when you're going to cause issues. So the hot racing mount, not a must-have, but a nice convenience, okay? You're not going to break anything, or you're not gaining any durability if you don't use this. However, it makes life easy for changing pinion gears if you want to go between street or track or bashing or whatever it is you need to switch them back around for. And that brings me to the next item, is pinion gears. The factory pinion gear, don't even bother with it. Don't even run it. Save it for a dire emergency, okay? You're gonna wanna buy Techno pinion gears, the Mod 1 pinion gears. I'll put some links. Everything I'm telling you, I'll put links in the description for. These SMC batteries, the ESC comes with 2 plugs and a loop and blah blah blah. Just cut all that off, okay? Cut all that off and put one XT90 on there, and buy single stick batteries like this. Is a 6S 7400 90C battery. This battery is so beast, tons of power. Don't buy 2 3S batteries and then you're just adding resistance for no reason when the ultimate goal is to run 6S. So just buy a 6S battery, okay? Just do that. Just save yourself the time and money on that. You may end up be paying more for the 2 individual batteries, and you've got a lot more wire and resistance with that whole setup and loop and stuff. It's not really preferred. All right, so this is a bent front CVD axle. Currently MIP is working on an axle that's supposed to be released this month. I don't know if you can tell that this is bent, but it's definitely bent. It's bent right here. Nothing you can do about it. I carry like 4 spares, or I probably got more like 5 spare CVDs in my box. But once MIP comes out with new axles, that'll be good. And part of the issue why this bends is when you get the Kraton, it comes with shims and spacers on the pillow balls. Take those out, okay? There's not enough. It brings it too far out from the outdrives, and at certain points of the suspension travel, the CVD will pop out of the outdrive and it gets stuck, and it binds the entire suspension and actually bends the shafts. So you need to check between every single battery. Look at these, make sure they're not backing off. And that's where I was telling you earlier, when you have these plastic hubs, it's a pain in the ass to take them off, retighten it, put it back on. With the hot racing, it's easier to get in and out and do that without worrying about wear and tear or stripping stuff or having to use Loctite again, and the Loctite attracts dirt. All right, so that's a little tip on that, and hopefully MIP will come out with their axles, and hopefully they'll be maybe just a little bit longer than the factory ones, or there's nothing you can do to bring that in further. So I keep it as tight as I can. So here I have, this is one of the #1 things you need to buy, okay? It's an upgraded steering servo. The stock steering servo is kind of weak, and they're known for stripping. I went through 3 stock steering servos and went through 2 Savox servos, and now I'm using the ProTech Black Label 370 TBL from A-Main. I went through over 24 hours of racing with this and practice and bashing and crashing and everything with this servo here. It never flinched. I would definitely buy these again. I'm definitely a ProTech man when it comes to almost just about anything they sell now. I'm very impressed with their products. So this servo is $160. Not everyone's gonna buy this. So you can try to buy a more budget servo out there, but if you're gonna ask me what I recommend, it's gonna be this Black Label ProTech servo. A lot of the Mugen Psyche guys are running this. So Adam Drake looks like he was running ProTech Black Label. Jeff Bolin runs them. I'm discovering a lot of people runs these, so I'm very happy with my choice, and I'm glad that A-Main got me on the path to the ProTech there. And the diff cups here, you want to at least upgrade the center one to metal because they're known for melting and getting hot. These are about $25 a piece. Not really a must-have, but I like things to be tight. Alright, so something else I want to mention is the aluminum bulkheads for the differentials. Something nobody has mentioned about these is that when using this aluminum bulkhead with this aluminum cover, which holds the differential in place, there is really, it takes away not all the tolerance. It's very tight, and you do not need to do all the ridiculous amounts of shimming we do with the plastic bulkheads and the plastic covers where there's play and movement, okay? So if you don't have these, then you need shims, okay? So you're gonna take, these are all 13 by 16 shims. This is 0.1, 0.15, and 0.2. And you're gonna wanna put a combination of these on the outdrive, outside of the bearing, outside of the differential, and it's gonna push the differential tighter into the housing. So that's for that. And then these 8 by 12 millimeter shims here, I got 0.1, and then I have 0.2. These shims go on the input gear. So inside the bulkhead, on the inside where that input gear goes in, you slide these on the gear shaft before the bearing, and it pushes the input shaft out towards the differential. So the other shims I showed you go here on the left side. Let's see. They go here on the left side inside the casing, just outside of that bearing, and it pushes the gear in towards the input gear. So you've got shims pushing this way, and you've got shims pushing this way. So if you do that, you can use the plastic stuff and you can get rid of the play, but it's a pain in the butt because you have to do all the shimming. I mean, the shims aren't expensive, but I will tell you, I spent at least an entire night trying to figure out the shimming, because I bought these aluminum ones and tried to put shims with it, and I had really notchy differentials, really notchy drivetrain. I had to take everything out, and I actually had to put this on just a little snug. If you tighten this down too much, it will create notchiness. So one thing I always recommend doing when you're doing your differentials and doing the mesh and doing all the shimming and all that stuff is do it without the motor, without the dog bones connected, so you can spin each differential and make sure the mesh feels good. There's no way in the world you're gonna know if you do it like this with the motor on. At the very least, take the pinion gear off so you can turn the entire drivetrain without the motor and hear what the differentials sound like. If they're notchy, that's not good. You need to take some shims out. So that's that. You either use the shims, or you can use these metal components and you don't need the shims because there's no play. It takes the tolerance away. And that was something that I haven't read anywhere, but it's my observation. Feel free to give it a try or give me your opinion. There's a lot of guys out there that have been doing this with the Arrmas longer than me, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they've got 5 shims in with their aluminum bulkheads, and I got lucky. I just got a really tight set. But hey, you know, that's tolerance and manufacturing for you. Other than that, if you do those things, the car is pretty unstoppable. And then one last thing, I don't know if I mentioned already, the RPM wing mount is much stronger, thicker, and better than the factory one. So it's also recommended that you get the RPM wing mount. Now, once you start adding all this stuff up after buying the car, it gets expensive, but if you don't want to have problems, this is just my opinion. This is what you can do to make the car stronger and not have to deal with as many issues. And I mentioned the front carriers have bigger bearings on them. The rear carriers for that hot racing also have bigger bearings on them. So I actually did replace my rear carriers as well to take benefit of the larger bearing that would be easier to maintain and would handle the 6S power a lot better. The Bulkheads also have bigger bearings on them. These are all reasons as well that I bought a hot racing stuff, because the bigger bearings, they're really good upgrades. Really, really good. When you've got a bearing that's like 2 millimeters, I mean, I can't imagine how big the balls are or what's actually in it. They're just not gonna last. So bigger bearings are better, and that's just my thought on that. So one other thing you do want to do as well, I shot a whole nother video on this, is you want to notch your wheels and pin your hubs and your axles with longer pins, basically pinning the tire. And this will keep you from stripping your wheels and stripping your hexes and stripping everything on 6S. Something else I would buy right away for another Arrma vehicle are these Techno shock standoffs or shock mounts. The factory shock mounts, while they allow you to use these covers, they're very weak. They bend, they come loose, they break. And the biggest issue is they like to get stripped, the screw that goes through. So if you ever have to do any adjustments, it's hard to take off and on because it's just a very weak setup. But the Techno standoffs, I have a separate video on how to install those. Those are much better. So I really recommend buying and replacing those for the front and rear. It'll set you back 25 bucks, but I promise you they will never bend. And they're a lot easier to move around. So other than that, you're good to go, guys. All right, have a good day. Thank you so much for watching my videos and supporting me. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and most importantly, comment below. Please let me know if the videos helped you, what you would like to see in the next videos, and if there's anything we can do to make the quality of the videos better for you, that would be great. If you're a vendor and you'd like to send me something to review, a product review, or would like to sponsor me for racing, my email is just down here. Send me an email, we'll work it out. Other than that, collab on, guys.